You think she stopped valuing you because you didn't do enough. But the truth is, she started taking you for granted because you kept offering more of yourself after she stopped earning access to it. You think the answer is to explain harder, love louder, prove deeper. But the man women miss is rarely the man who kept reaching. It's the man who finally remembered who he was without needing to be chosen. Listen carefully. If you need reminders like this, real reminders, not comfort, not sugar, not fantasy, subscribe, because you are living in a world that will constantly tempt you to betray yourself just to keep somebody interested. And if you don't hear the truth often, you will drift. You will negotiate against your own worth. You will call it love. It isn't love. It's fear wearing a romantic mask. Here's what it really means when a woman starts missing the man she took for granted. It does not mean you played games better. It does not mean you became cold, petty, or manipulative. It means you stopped making her the center of your identity. It means your energy withdrew from chasing and returned to building. It means your presence used to be available on demand, and now it has weight again. That's the shift. That's the thesis. She doesn't miss the begging version of you. She misses the version of you that had gravity, the version that had standards, the version that did not shrink himself just to maintain contact. Most men get this wrong because they confuse effort with value. They think, if I show her how much I care, she'll finally see me. If I stay patient, stay loyal, stay available, stay understanding, she'll eventually realize what she has. No, not automatically. That is one of the most expensive lies a man can live by, because once your care becomes predictable without being protected, it stops being respected. Once your loyalty is guaranteed, no matter how you're treated, it stops feeling valuable. Human nature works like that. People often feel the weight of something only after they no longer control its presence. And that hurts your ego because you want the world to reward goodness immediately. You want decency to be obvious. You want consistency to be enough. But life is not a morality play. An attraction is not a charity program. People don't value what you say you are. They value what your life, your boundaries, your silence, and your standards make undeniable. That's called reality. So let's tear the illusion apart. The misconception is this: if you keep showing up, she'll stop overlooking you. The hard truth is this: if you keep showing up in a way that costs you your self-respect, she will feel less and less urgency to protect your place in her life. Why? Because you taught her that your presence has no conditions. You taught her that access to you does not require reciprocity. You taught her that even when she pulls back, disrespects you, deprioritizes you, confuses you, or leaves you emotionally starving, you will still be there with the same open hands and the same hopeful eyes. That's not devotion. That's self-abandonment. You stop listening to your own discomfort. You stop honoring your own standards. You stop asking whether the connection is feeding you or draining you. You stop being a man with a life, and you become a man waiting for emotional crumbs. That's the tragedy. Not that she took you for granted, that you helped her do it. And maybe that stings. Good. It should. Because if you don't let the truth sting, you'll keep repeating the cycle. You'll keep blaming women in general instead of confronting the weakness in your patterns. You'll call them confusing when the truth is you were unclear. You'll call them ungrateful when the truth is you were overgiving without discernment. You'll call them heartless when the truth is you kept offering your heart where your standards should have stepped in first. Why does this happen? Root cause. Always go to the root. At the root, a lot of men are not loving from fullness. They are loving from hunger. Hunger for validation, hunger for certainty, hunger for reassurance, hunger to finally feel like enough. So when a woman gives attention, chemistry, softness, admiration, desire, approval, anything that temporarily quiets the insecurity, you grip it too tightly. You overinvest too early. You start managing her mood instead of managing your mission. You start reading every text like it's a verdict on your worth. You start measuring your peace by her consistency. That's not love. That's dependence. And dependence always weakens your posture. Because once you depend on someone to feel stable, you can no longer relate to them cleanly. You can't see clearly. You can't evaluate calmly. You can't set limits powerfully. Why? Because every boundary feels like a risk. Every honest conversation feels like a gamble. Every moment of distance feels like death. So what do? You overcompensate. You become more understanding than the situation deserves, more available than your life can afford, more forgiving than your dignity should allow. You call it maturity. And sometimes it's just fear of loss. You answer fast because you're scared. Silence means disinterest. You rearrange your schedule because you're scared saying no means replacement. You tolerate inconsistency because you're scared. Standards will leave you alone. You keep initiating because you're scared. If you stop, the truth will be exposed. She wasn't carrying this connection with you. That's called avoidance of reality. But reality is the doorway, always. Because the moment you stop running from what is, you start getting your power back. Not fake power, not loud power, not ego power, real power. The kind that comes from being rooted in yourself. The kind that says, I can care deeply without collapsing. I can want you without worshiping you. I can appreciate you without abandoning myself for you. That is a different man. And that is the man she feels when he leaves the performance and returns to his center. Understand something crucial. Women do not deeply miss the man they could easily control through guilt, inconsistency, or selective affection. They may use him. They may rely on him. They may enjoy his attention, but miss him, not in the way that matters. The man they miss is the one whose presence changed the emotional climate of the room because he was solid, grounded, intentional, not noisy, not desperate, not trying to sell himself every 5 minutes. He didn't beg for acknowledgement because his life did not revolve around being validated. He was there by choice, not by need. And when a man like that steps back, the absence is real. The silence has shape. The space has weight. Presence versus access. Learn the difference. A lot of men think they are being present, but they are just being accessible, always around, always ready, always checking in, always proving, always available for emotional labor, validation, entertainment, crisis management, and reassurance. That is not presence. Presence has depth. Presence has restraint. Presence has direction. Presence can sit still. Presence doesn't tremble when it isn't immediately rewarded. Presence does not flood the room to avoid being forgotten. Presence lets people feel the quality of it. Access is cheap. Presence is rare. That's why silence changes everything. When you stop over-explaining, she hears the quiet. When you stop chasing, she feels the distance. When you stop interrupting your own life to maintain hers, she notices the shift. Not because silence is a trick, but because constant availability had numbed her to your value. Noise creates blindness. Scarcity creates contrast. And no, this is not about pretending not to care. It's about no longer performing care in ways that make you easy to overlook. What does it cost you when you refuse to learn this? It costs you your edge. It costs you your time. It costs you your emotional stability. It costs you your focus. It costs you your standards. It costs you opportunities with women who would have respected you because you were too busy clinging to one who didn't. It costs you your mission because your mind becomes a hostage situation. You wake up thinking about what to text. You sleep thinking about what changed. You replay conversations. You revise yourself. You censor truth. You soften your needs. You betray your own instincts. And slowly, almost invisibly, you become a version of yourself you would not even admire. That's the real cost. Not losing her, losing you. And when a man loses himself trying not to lose a woman, he becomes forgettable. Not because he isn't good, because he is no longer distinct. He has no clear outline, no firm center, no boundaries that define where he ends and another person begins. He blends into her convenience. He becomes emotionally useful, but not deeply respected. That's a brutal place to live. Needed sometimes, chosen rarely, valued conditionally, drained constantly. Now here comes the reframe. The goal is not to make women miss you. That's too small, too reactive, too thirsty. The goal is to become the man whose absence naturally reveals his value because his presence was never cheap, never performative, and never disconnected from self-respect. Read that again in your mind. The goal is not reaction. The goal is substance. When you become substantial, missing you is a byproduct, not a strategy. And this is where weak men panic, because substance cannot be faked for long. You can fake confidence for a night. You can fake detachment for a week. You can fake mystery in a text thread, but you cannot fake a life. You cannot fake discipline. You cannot fake a calm nervous system. You cannot fake standards under pressure. You cannot fake self-respect when someone you desire starts withdrawing affection. Your truth shows up right there, in what you tolerate, in what you chase, in what you excuse, in what you keep calling love after it has already become humiliation. So who is the man she starts missing? He is not the loudest man. He is not the coldest man. He is not the most manipulative man. He is the man who knows where he stands with himself. He wakes up with direction. He has work to do that matters to him. He does not build his day around whether somebody texted back. He can feel disappointment without unraveling. He can want intimacy without bargaining away his identity for it. He does not confuse chemistry with compatibility. He does not confuse attention with investment. He does not confuse history with destiny. He watches patterns. He listens to energy. He believes behavior. And when something becomes misaligned, he does not chase clarity forever. He becomes clarity. That man has boundaries, and not the fake social media kind. Not quotes, not slogans, not know your worth, while still accepting nonsense in private. Real boundaries. Boundaries that cost him something. Boundaries that force choices. Boundaries that say, if this connection consistently leaves me confused, diminished, anxious, or disrespected, I will not continue feeding it with my time. Boundaries that say, access to me requires honesty. Access to me requires effort. Access to me requires reciprocity. Access to me requires respect. And if that sounds harsh to weak ears, let it. Weak ears want endless tolerance, because endless tolerance makes self-betrayal easier. The man she misses is grounded. That means he doesn't live in fantasy. He doesn't date potential. He doesn't bond to promises. He doesn't marry words that actions haven't funded. He sees what is. She says she's serious, but she disappears when consistency is required. He sees it. She says she values him, but only reaches out when lonely. He sees it. She says she wants depth, but avoids accountability every time truth gets uncomfortable. He sees it. And because he sees it, he does not keep handing over sacred energy to an unserious dynamic. That's called discernment. He is purposeful, not because he is obsessed with money or status, but because his life is aimed. He is building something bigger than temporary validation. He has a craft, a mission, a standard, a direction, a code. So when love enters his life, it has to complement his path, not consume it. He does not need to dominate a woman to feel like a man. He needs to be in command of himself. That is masculinity at its cleanest form. Self-command, emotional steadiness, protective truth, quiet strength, no begging, no collapsing, no performance. He respects himself enough to walk away before resentment turns him bitter. Understand that. A lot of men don't leave when they should. They stay until they become angry, sarcastic, cold, suspicious, cynical. Then they say, women change them. No, their lack of boundaries change them. Staying where your spirit is repeatedly disrespected will rot you from the inside. The strong man notices the rot early and removes himself before his character starts decaying. And here's what women feel. Even when they can't explain it in words, they feel the difference between a man who is with them because he chooses them and a man who is with them because he is terrified of not being chosen. They feel the difference between love and dependency, between steadiness and neediness, between generosity and self-erasure, between a man who offers his presence from fullness and a man who throws his presence around hoping it will purchase security. One feels safe, the other feels heavy. That is why she starts missing him when he returns to himself, because suddenly the emotional leverage is gone. Suddenly the constant stream of attention is gone. Suddenly the man she assumed would always remain within reach is no longer orbiting her moods. He's back in his body, back in his mission, back in his standards, back in reality. And whether she admits it or not, reality is attractive because reality is solid. Fantasy is fun. Reality is felt. Now let's make this practical. If you want to become the man who is deeply valued instead of casually consumed, Stop trying to be unforgettable through intensity. Start becoming unforgettable through integrity. Stop over-texting. Stop filling every silence. Stop trying to rescue every dip in energy. If communication has become one-sided, let it reveal itself. Don't cover for it. Don't compensate for it. Don't create the illusion of mutual interest by doing both people's jobs. If you are always initiating, always reviving, always carrying, you are not building connection. You are dragging a corpse and calling it romance. Stop explaining your worth to people who only understand convenience. Worth that needs constant verbal defense is not being felt. Let your standards speak. Let your withdrawal speak. Let your changed availability speak. Let your calm no speak. If someone has to be argued into respecting you, they don't respect you. They are negotiating how little they can give while still keeping access. Stop making her inconsistency your personal project. You are not here to decode mixed signals for 6 months. You are not here to mine breadcrumbs for meaning. You are not here to become a full-time analyst of someone else's confusion. If it is unclear, treat it as clear. If it is inconsistent, treat it as information. If it repeatedly wounds your peace, stop romanticizing your endurance. Endurance is not always strength. Sometimes endurance is just delayed self-respect. Do this instead. Slow down, observe, ask simple questions, watch whether actions match words, keep your routines intact, protect your sleep, protect your training, protect your work, protect your inner climate, date from a full life, not from an emotional vacancy. If you feel yourself becoming obsessive, redirect immediately. Put the phone down, go train, go work, go build, go create, go pray, go think, go sit with the discomfort without soothing it through pursuit. Because every time you interrupt your own spiral with discipline, you are teaching yourself that desire does not get to run your life. Hold your frame. That phrase gets abused, but the truth inside it matters. Holding your frame means your values do not collapse under attraction. Your standards do not disappear because she is beautiful. Your schedule does not dissolve because she suddenly gives attention. Your emotions do not become commands. You can feel everything and still choose wisely. That's frame, not stiffness, not emotional suppression, self-governance. If there is something that needs to be said, say it once, clearly, calmly, directly, not with pleading, not with accusation, not with a hidden contract. Say what you mean. Say what works for you. Say what doesn't. Then watch. Do not deliver 10 speeches where one sentence and one boundary would do more. Men who respect themselves do not drown truth in excess language. They state it, then they honor it. And if the response is indifference, good. Painful, but good. Because now you have information. Now you can stop investing in the wrong place. Now you can stop lying to yourself. Now you can stop trying to turn a half-hearted connection into a meaningful bond through sheer force of effort. Effort cannot create alignment. It only reveals it. Some of you need to hear this part twice. Her missing you is not your job. Your job is to become so aligned with yourself that anyone who loses access to you feels the loss, honestly. That's different. One is manipulation. The other is consequence. One is strategy. The other is standards. One says, how do I trigger her emotions? The other says, how do I stop living beneath my own code? Stay with the second question. It will save your life. Because when you chase being missed, you are still centered on her. When you chase self-respect, you come back to yourself. And that return changes everything. You become harder to shake, harder to bait, harder to use, harder to replace in any meaningful sense. Not because you became arrogant, because you became whole. Wholeness is rare. A whole man is dangerous to dysfunction. A whole man does not worship beauty over character. A whole man does not confuse emotional intensity with truth. A whole man can walk into connection open-hearted and still leave with dignity if the connection proves unworthy. He does not need to villainize women. He does not need to harden into bitterness. He does not need to perform indifference. He simply sees clearly and moves accordingly. That's power. And yes, ironically, that is often when she starts thinking about you, when she notices you are no longer reacting, when she senses that your life has momentum again, when your absence is not a dramatic punishment, but a natural outcome of standards, when your energy no longer feels available for casual consumption. When the man she assumed would wait is no longer waiting. When she realizes the attention she treated as ordinary was actually the expression of a man with depth, care, discipline, and precision. Vidal si and desi tachi chi ibern mai at rekikekig. Nishin often comes late. That is life. People often understand value after contrast enters the picture. But hear me clearly. By that point, your standard cannot be, she misses me, so I win. No, the standard is, I respect the man I became in the process. Because if she returns and you are still starving, still uncentered, still addicted to her approval, you will fold again. You will mistake renewed attention for transformation. You will reopen the same door to the same lesson, and then you will suffer twice for what you refused to learn once. So if she comes back, assess. Don't fantasize. Assess. Has behavior changed? Has accountability appeared? Has consistency improved? Has respect deepened? Has clarity replaced confusion? If not, do not let nostalgia overrule evidence. Missing you is not enough. Regret is not commitment. Desire is not discipline. Words are not repair. Let reality lead. This is where a lot of men fail their own growth. They evolve just enough to get her attention back, then abandon the growth the moment they get it. Don't do that. Don't use discipline as bait. Use discipline as identity. Don't use boundaries as tactics. Use boundaries as structure. Don't use self-respect as a performance for female approval. Use self-respect because without it, nothing in your life stays clean for long. You want the truth? Women are not the prize for becoming a stronger man. Peace is. Clarity is. Purpose is. Clean sleep is. Undivided focus is. Looking in the mirror and knowing you did not beg where you should have walked is. Knowing your heart stayed open, but your spine stayed intact is. That is the reward. And from that place, ironically, your relationships improve because now you are not entering them as a beggar in disguise. You are entering as a man with something real to offer and no need to force it where it doesn't belong. That changes your voice. That changes your eyes. That changes your choices. That changes what you tolerate. That changes what you attract. You stop chasing chaos because calm no longer feels boring. You stop worshiping distance because you no longer associate struggle with value. You stop trying to earn basic respect because you finally understand that what has to be begged for is already too expensive. You stop abandoning yourself in the name of connection because you finally understand that self-betrayal poisons whatever it touches. And once you understand that, your energy becomes cleaner. Cleaner energy creates cleaner relationships. Not perfect, cleaner, more honest, more mutual, more grounded. You no longer need to be the most impressive man in the room. You need to be the most honest with himself. That man cannot be easily played because he does not participate in his own deception. So, if you've been taken for granted, stop making that your heartbreak story and start making it your awakening. Good. Now you see. Now you know what it looks like when your value is offered without structure. Now you know what it feels like to hand too much to someone who did not know how to hold it. Learn. Don't just hurt. Learn. Learn to pause before overinvesting. Learn to watch patterns longer. Learn to let people reveal their level without helping them fake it. Learn to keep your life moving whether attention comes or goes. Learn to separate loneliness from love. Learn to separate desire from discernment. Learn to separate chemistry from character. And above all, learn this. The man who is hardest to forget is the man who never abandoned himself to be remembered. That's the line. Not the most available man, not the most agreeable man, not the man who tolerated the most, not the man who sacrificed his center hoping it would be appreciated. The hardest man to forget is the man who brought real presence, real intention, real steadiness, real standards, and then removed access when those things were not honored, because now the memory of him is attached to truth, to contrast, to consequence, to something solid. People remember what felt real, and nothing feels more real than a man who knows his worth without screaming it. So stand up inside yourself. Stop auditing your value through someone else's attention span. Stop trying to be chosen by people who benefit from your lack of boundaries. Stop treating your devotion like an endless free resource. Stop leaking your life force into spaces that do not return respect. Pull your energy back. Pull your focus back. Pull your standards back into place. Build your body, build your mind, build your work, build your discipline, build your spiritual life, build your circle, build a life so aligned that love becomes an addition, not an escape. Then when you give, you will give from strength. When you care, you will care from stability. When you will love without losing your name in the process. And if someone takes that for granted, you won't crumble. You'll adjust. You'll see it. You'll feel the disappointment. You'll tell the truth. And if necessary, you'll leave with your dignity intact. That is what self-respect looks like in motion. Remember this when the temptation comes to text again, explain again, prove again, wait again. Ask yourself one question. Am I acting from self-respect or from fear? That question will expose almost everything. If it's fear, stop, breathe, redirect, return to your center. Fear wants immediate relief. Self-respect wants long-term alignment. Choose alignment. Because in the end, you are not here to become more digestible, more acceptable, more endlessly available. You are here to become real. And real men are not easy to take for granted for long, because even when people fail to value them in the moment, life eventually reveals the difference. The calm, the steadiness, the integrity, the standard, the quiet strength, the grounded love, the absence of games, the presence of truth. That is what lasts. That is what echoes. That is what gets missed. But more important than being missed, that is what lets you live with yourself cleanly. That is what lets you sleep at night without replaying your own humiliation. That is what lets you move through the world with your shoulders back and your spirit intact. That is what lets you love again without carrying the stench of desperation into the next chapter. So no, the answer is not to become colder. The answer is to become clearer, clearer about who you are, clearer about what you allow, clearer about what love is and what it isn't, clearer about the fact that being a good man does not require being an easily used man, clearer about the fact that self-respect is not an obstacle to intimacy. It is the foundation of healthy intimacy. You are not here to beg for recognition. You are not here to negotiate for basic respect. You are not here to audition for a place in someone's life while they keep you emotionally on hold. You are the answer. Not because you are perfect, because once you return to your center, you stop looking outside yourself for permission to stand tall. Carry that, live that, become that. And if you want more truth like this, more clarity, more self-respect, more reminders that pull you back to who you really are, subscribe, because this world is full of voices telling you to betray yourself for attention, and very few telling you to build a life that makes that attention unnecessary. Stay close to the truth. Stay close to men who are choosing discipline over delusion, standards over scraps, reality over fantasy. You belong in that room.